It's really good to be with you all tonight, especially during this time of year, right? Typically, Monday night meditation's on hiatus during the summer months of Tammuz and Av. But this year, right, with COVID, the pandemic, and the heightened suffering and concern that we're experiencing in the world, we're leaning into the chevra, right? We're leaning into the community, into the support that's available as we live and traverse these very, very dark and challenging times. So I've heard it said quite a lot that these days and months that we're living in right now are unprecedented, right? That they're the most dark and difficult times, incomparable to days and years past. And even though this most likely feels true to some part of ourselves, it actually isn't true. It isn't true at all. Each spin of the cycle through the sun and each review of history of many, many different people and many, many different paths, most definitely the Jewish path and the Jewish people, it reveals this repetitive patterning year after year, century after century of pain and suffering, of injustice, of grief, of violence, of fear. And this year, it's self-evident, right? The difficulties, the challenges, the atrocities are personally, directly, and undeniably impacting us, impacting our lives. We live as Jews and follow and are influenced by the sacred Jewish calendar, month after month, year after year. And often surprising, but also really expected, where we find ourselves in time and space is exactly aligned to the teachings and the lessons and the lives of Torah, of our sages, of our ancestors. It's a spiral through time and space, right? It's not a circle. Each month, especially the major holidays, spiral around again to a similar, though not exact, location, right? God willing, it's like a higher consciousness and we're spiraling. Sometimes we go the other way, but we're open this higher consciousness, but really to a similar but not exact location. So the teaching this evening comes directly from one of my of the two go-to books that I use that shepherd me through the high holiday season year after year. Tonight's teaching is directly from Rabbi Alan Liu of blessed, blessed memory, from his book, This Is Real, and You're Completely Unprepared. So it's a great title, and it's a fantastic book. If you don't have it, even though it was originally published like 20 years ago almost, I can't believe it, I highly recommend gifting yourself a copy for this year's journey through the high holidays, which may surprise you, but if you were here last month, I warned us that the high holiday season is already underway, right? Especially this week as we observe these last days of the first 9 days of the month of Av. And on Wednesday night, we begin the major fast and observance and practice of Tisha B'Av, which is the saddest day of the entire Jewish calendar. The Talmud actually states that when the month of Av begins, we reduce our joy. And indeed, these first 9 days of the month of Av are a period of mourning for all that has fallen and gone seriously wrong in the history of the Jewish people. But it isn't just the history of the Jewish people, it's also in our own personal histories, right? And how our own lives, as we are experiencing them now. So according to Talmud, on Tisha B'Av, we mourn not just the destruction of the first and second temples, but we mourn and feel and embrace nearly every major calamity and terror and horror that's basically ever taken place long before and long after the first and second temple. Right? Rabbi Alan Liu, blessed memory, he writes, there are two ways of looking at how our tradition has collapsed history on this day, on Tisha B'Av. Two ways of thinking about this conflation of calamity. We can regard the 9th of Av and the week surrounding it as a cursed time, which is something, there's something to this idea in the prohibitions of weddings during this period, right? Or we can regard the 9th of Av as a time when we're reminded that catastrophe is going to keep recurring in our lives until we get things right, until we learn what we need to learn from them. Tisha B'Av comes exactly 7 weeks before Rosh Hashanah, and beginning the process that actually will culminate on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's the moment, Tisha B'Av is the moment of turning. It's the beginning, the initiation of Teshuvah, the moment when we turn away from denial and begin to face exile and alienation as they manifest in our own lives. In our alienation and estrangement from the divine, in our alienation and estrangement from ourselves, and in our alienation and estrangement from each other, from one another. Teshuvah, this turning, is the essential gesture of the high holiday season. And it's the gesture by which we seek to heal this alienation and to find at-one-ment. And Rabbi Alan Lew was the first person years ago, decades ago, that I heard turn the word atonement into the syllables, 3 syllables of at-one-ment. This at-one-ment, that to connect to God, right? To reconcile with others, and to really anchor ourselves in the ground of our actual circumstances, so that it is this reality that actually shapes our actions, and not just habitual unconscious momentum. The Rambam, the great medieval philosopher, said that teshuvah is this kind of moral and spiritual turning is only complete when we find ourselves in exactly the same position we were in when we went wrong, right? When the state of estrangement and alienation began, and now we choose to behave differently when it comes up again, to act in a way that's conducive to at-one-ment, to atonement and reconciliation. But you can imagine the objection was raised, right? And you may be thinking it even now. What happens if the circumstances in question don't repeat themselves? And the Rambam was like, oh yeah, don't worry about that. They always repeat themselves. The unresolved elements of our lives, the unconscious patterns, the conflicts and problems that seem to arise no matter where we go or with whom we find ourselves, continue to pull us into the same moral and spiritual circumstances over and over and over again until we figure out how to resolve them, right? They continue to carry us into harm's way until we become aware of them, conscious of them, and begin to change them. Rabbi Lew emphatically states that the only question worth asking about any conflict, any recurring catastrophe, including here and now, is this: what is my responsibility for it? How am I complacent in it? How can I prevent it from happening again? When things go bad, there's this enormous temptation, and I know I have suffered, and I'm guessing you have suffered from this temptation, to blame it on the externals, right? On the evil of others, or on the unlucky turn of events, or of the politicians in office. But spiritually, though, we're called to resist this temptation, no matter how strong it may be, and no matter how strongly rooted in fact or reason or even history it may seem. Spiritually, we're called to responsibility. We're called to ask, what am I doing to make this recur again and again? Our power in this world is considerable, but it's also limited, right? It's only in the here and now, in the moment, in this place, in the present moment that we're in together right now, that we can act. We cannot act in the past. And we can't act at all in the future. And most certainly we can't act through someone else's experiences. There may be plenty of evidence in the history of our lives to suggest that our pain and our suffering and our grief and our sadness is the other person's fault. But we aren't talking about history. We're talking about our spiritual growth that I know each of you are dedicated to. And in terms of our spiritual growth, What we really need to ask is this: what is my complicity? Why do I always end up fighting, often the same fight again and again, with my husband or my sister or my mom or my daughter or my daughter-in-law or my friend? Right? It's the same fight. How can I make things better in the here and now of my actual experience? The only time and place in which I am actually empowered to act. Rabbi Alan Liu wonders, how many of us are holding on very hard to some piece of personal history or an idea or a belief that's preventing us from moving on with our lives and keeping us from those we actually deeply love? He wonders how many of us cling so tenaciously to a version of the story of our lives in which we appear to be utterly blameless and absolutely innocent, and that we become oblivious to the pain we've inflicted on others, no matter how unconsciously or inevitably or innocently we may have inflicted it. How many of us are terrified of acknowledging the truth of our lives because we think it will expose us? How many of us stand paralyzed, frozen, really unable to act in the moment because of our terror of the past and because of the intractability of the present circumstances that the past has created? Forgiveness, it's been said, means giving up our hope for a better past. Giving up our hope for a better past. This may sound like a joke, but how many of us refuse to give up our version of the past and so find it impossible to forgive others or ourselves? Impossible to act in this moment, in the present moment. Tisha B'Av is the beginning of Teshuvah, the process of turning that we hope to complete on Yom Kippur, the process of returning to ourselves, to the sacred, to the truest expression of the truth, the diyuk, exact, right? Nothing extra, nothing omitted, and the acknowledgement of the unresolved in our lives as a people and as individuals. The sacred power of Tisha B'Av asks, where are you? What transition point are you standing at as you once again begin this annual sacred journey of Teshuvah, a return to self? What is causing sharp feeling in you, disturbing you, knocking you a little off balance? Where is your suffering? What's making you feel badly? What's making you feel at all? How long will you keep the walls up? How long will you furiously defend against what you know deep down to be the truth? Will you turn? Will you let in the truth that you've been wailing out all year long and let this truth help you, to stop making the same mistakes again and again? Will you let this moment of consciousness help you break the unconscious moment of your life? Will you move from a state of siege to a state of openness, to a state of truthfulness, especially with yourself? The walls of our soul begin to crumble, and the first glimmerings of transformation, teshuvah, begin to seep in. We turn, and we stop looking beyond ourselves. We stop defending ourselves.
Oh, I should put my mask on. Sorry.
It's okay.
We stop blaming bad luck and awful circumstances on other people. We turn in and we let the walls fall. And that turn begins here, right? This week, especially Wednesday evening, the start of Tisha B'Av, which is 7 weeks before Rosh Hashanah. The turn and the introspection and earnest begins now, so that by the 10 days of Teshuvah, we're ready for the transformation. We can enter the present moment of our lives and consciously alter that moment. And so we'll go into a meditation this evening that'll help us begin this inner turn. Right, find a place, sit up so that your spine is erect. that you're comfortable. If you're comfortable and you know that's how you meditate, that's okay. The more upright you can be, really feel the base, your base on the seat or on a cushion. Really sensing the contact that you sense your body making with the chair that you're sitting in or the floor. And starting to pay attention to your breath, right? Teshuvah is a tremendous force. It doesn't happen all at once. And it doesn't happen only because you say it should or you want it to. It happens slowly as you allow your pain and darkness and the depths of sadness to meet and open within the warmth of your genuine compassion and understanding and interest. It's not easy. It happens as your awareness begins to include your breath, right? Your nishima. Begin to include your breath in your awareness. Nishima, your breath, in Hebrew is the same word as your soul, neshama. Feeling the inhalation and the exhalation, the rise and the fall of your belly, of your body, of your container. This is the second month of the 3-month season preceding the high holidays, preparing for them. The heavens are busy. All 3 months, the spiritual realm of Atzilut is super duper active. And then the Vav, this month and last month actually, the Vav is in the world of Birah. The Vav is in the world of your thoughts, which means that your thoughts don't need your attention right now, right? You allow your energy to flow through your mind with ease, right? A channel really, a connection from the heavens above Keter, from the heavens through your mind, not engaging all those thoughts that we spend so much time on, straight into your heart. And there in your heart center, in Tiferet, just allow your breath to rest here. Soft, gentle breathing. The Yud is here, the small divine spark of all creation is here in the world of emotion and compassion, in your heart, the world of love and tenderness. It's allowing your breath to rest here. Not forcing it, but staying close. Soft breathing into your heart center. Feeling your neshama, your soul, expand as your nishama, your breath moves within your heart. Sensing the sacred divine spark, the emotions, the sadness, the loss, any fear, any pain. It's okay. This time is for you tonight, right? This breath, this life, this moment is for you. And the meditation will provide a container for you to come close to yourself in the support of chevra for prescribed limited time, which you can tolerate. Allow your breath to softly touch the fear in your heart, the pain, the loss, catastrophe. And continue to breathe gently into your heart center, into Tiferet. And if tears come, allow them to come. Allow them to flow during this meditation. Psalm 126 says, "Those who sow in tears shall reap with shouts of joy." You can be assured the meditation won't last forever. You'll not be abandoned and left alone, wallowing in your sadness forever. The bell will sound, and you'll return to your everyday movement. But for now, use these moments, this time of meditation, to turn. Begin the inward teshuvah, to touch and be with and to hold and to feel your deepest sadness and mourning. And we'll sit this way until you hear the bell sound in its entirety, all the way through until we're all present again, sitting in silence. You can feel the field of love surrounding you. Really ride your inhalation into the depths of your heart center, Yitzhirah, and allow the exhalation to support your staying close within. And when and if you become distracted, teshuvah, no judgment, no harsh words, just return. Return again to your breath. Return to your soul, to your heart. Returning again and again to the truth as it manifests within you now, and now, and now.